How many of you have ever heard the saying, came back from the hospital and became more sick than when I went in there? Or have heard someone talk about becoming more sick coming out of the hospital than they actually did coming in? More and more recently, it seems like people have been hearing about it, seeing it, experiencing it for themselves. But is there any truth behind it? And the fact of the matter is, there is some truth behind it. Currently in the US, 1 in 20 people currently admitted in a hospital carry an infection that they acquired in the hospital that they did not come in with. This translates into a little over 250,000 people currently diagnosed with what we call a hospital-acquired infection, an infection that they got in the hospital that they did not come in with. This creates a huge burden for hospitals to not only have to diagnose what they came in there for and treat that, but now compounding it with an infection with a pathogen or a bug that could be very resistant to the current treatments. And that's what I'm here to talk about today. My name is Alec Reenan. I graduated in May of 2017 with a BS in biochemistry, and I work on antibacterial coatings for medical textiles. So, with 1 in 20 people currently admitted in a hospital with a hospital-acquired infection, what is currently in place to try to prevent this from happening? The CDC, which is the Center for Disease Control, has current mandates out that tell hospitals how to keep the environment clean and how to clean it. A lot of that is on healthcare providers, nurses, doctors, surgeons, having very rigorous hand washing techniques. Anytime you enter, anytime you leave a room, you're always supposed to wash your hands or use hand sanitizer. And then the actual cleaning of the room, depending on how sick the patient is, what they have, should at least take place every time the room is turned over. The issue with this is that all the current cleaning techniques only clean what's already been there. They have no predictive value of what bugs can come on there in the future. So if you wash your hands, you're cleaning off your hands, and your hands become clean, and the second they dry, they're susceptible to more of these pathogens, and you again carry a risk of spreading the disease-carrying pathogens from room to room, from person to person. The tricky thing about these bugs is not only are they becoming resistant to our treatment techniques, but they're also very good at movement, adhering to surfaces. Dr. William Rutala is one of the premier disinfection specialists, and he's done studies on high-touch surfaces, low-touch surfaces, and he's found that it doesn't really matter how often the surface gets touched by people, it still carries an immense amount of pathogen-carrying bugs, and that's kind of the focus of my research. I try to target areas that we could prevent bugs from spreading, and how we do that is we make a protective coating on medical textiles. So think about hospital beds, privacy curtains, nurse scrubs, etc. We create a coating, and it binds an antimicrobial agent, something that's effective at killing these bugs. It binds to our coating, and anytime bacteria, either through the air, through a cough, through a sneeze, whatever, lands on the textile, the bug not only cannot adhere to it, but actually on contact it physically breaks apart the microbe, killing it on contact. So when you hear about these super bugs and infesting whole wings of hospitals, we're trying to prevent that from happening. If someone does get an infection, to try to keep it maintained to only that person, not let it spread, because that's when you really see the issues. Another big part of that, this issue, is the financial burden. And the Center for Disease Control actually did a study on it and found that treatment of hospital-acquired infections actually costs hospitals $33 billion a year. A lot of this is due to the fact that if you are admitted into a hospital and you acquire a hospital-acquired infection, the hospital is actually required to readmit you, and they cover all of your hospital expenses from that point forward. So not only is the hospital trying to mitigate this to prevent people from getting sick, but they actually are having a very tough time being able to afford the treatment for the over 250,000 of people that have been acquired with this with these infections. The CDC further went on to report that improvements in environmental cleanliness and the overall environment of care could save hospitals close to $8 billion in a year. And that's where we try to come in, because as great as it would be to be able to fix this problem, the only way the company could survive is if they're also making money. And so that kind of value proposition is where we saw that we could make an improvement in the current technology, and we could make some money and save lives. That is the background of my research. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and have a nice day.